G'day guys and welcome back to AdosTheGreat YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video I will be going through how I went in my round 5 tips, and then I'll be giving you my round 6 predictions. As you can see, setup looks a little bit different once again, and I've got my intros back. That is because my computer is working again. Praise the bloody Lord, because it was a bit tough. It was definitely a bit tough to work without a computer. Having to use my old laptop was very difficult. But we're here. We're working through it. The only downside to this is things might work a little bit slower because I am working off my phone's hotspot. So we're still waiting on Wi-Fi and all that to be installed in the new house. But outside of that, things should start slowly returning to normal. All right, let's talk about round 5, guys, and how I went. So in the first game, I backed Melbourne at home to beat the Broncos by 4 points. They ended up winning by 2, so not a bad tip there from me. You'll take that, definitely. But obviously, I would have liked to nail that margin, but it was pretty good tip there. So we definitely take that. Next up, I backed the Roosters in to beat the Dogs. Now, I did say that I thought the Bulldogs would put up a fight here. I thought it would be on a higher end of a 1-12 margin to the Roosters, but to the Dogs' credit, they came out to a 26-0 start. They looked bloody good. The second half was not great from them. Let's call a spade here and be upfront and honest. The second half not great from the Dogs, but all in all, pretty good result. Obviously not for my tips though, as the Roosters lose that one by 4. All right, next up, the Knights and the Dragons. I thought the Dragons would keep this one relatively close, but to the Knights' credit, they put their foot down. They got a good win there at home, and it was really good. So 30 points to 10 win there for Newcastle. Great result for the Knights there. All right, next up, we've got to talk about it. I know we've got to talk about it. Do I want to talk about it? Absolutely not. So, as I said last week, I wasn't confident about this tip. Far from confident about this one. Rabbitohs got absolutely outplayed by the Warriors. For about 10 minutes, the Rabbitohs looked like the better team, and the Warriors just ran rings around them after that. Not great for my Rabbitohs here, but hopefully Jai Gray comes in at fullback this week, and we see a few changes made. If we do struggle against Cronulla, Jason Demetrio will likely be gone. So we will talk about that when I do my tips. But not the best start to the year for my Rabbitohs, unfortunately, and they are sitting last. Yeah, not great. All right, next up, I backed Panthers in to beat Manly, as did 84% of people. I thought the Panthers would be too good for them here, but Manly stood up in Brookvale, and it was a really good win there. They got behind their captain, Daly Cherry-Evans, who is now the most capped player for the Manly Seagulls, so congratulations to him. Ridiculously good effort there. Manly were up for this one. Big win, 32-18. Very strong win over the Panthers. Panthers just, they can't wait for that bye and Cleary to get back. I'll tell you that right now. Right, next up, the Dolphins beating the Tigers 26-16. Strong win here for the Dolphins. Obviously, another tip right there. But I thought the Tigers were brave, especially without Lockie Galvin. Like, the way he controls and directs the team is actually really good for a young fella. So, that is a big loss for them. Like, I never thought I'd say an 18-year-old would be a big loss for a team, but I generally believe Lockie Galvin is a big loss for the Tigers. So, I thought if he played this game, I reckon they'd come close to winning this, to be honest. But look, I know a lot of people are going to say an 18-year-old doesn't change anything, but I generally believe he does. But credit to the Dolphins, sitting at number 1 on the table. Great win there for them, and they keep on moving. Really good win for the Dolphins. All right, next up, the North Queensland Cowboys beating the Titans by 13 points. It's funny when teams lose. Obviously they were not the better team on the day. Let's call a spade a spade. But I thought the Titans were very much improved in this one. The Cowboys were good, in parts, but they were also a bit disappointing in parts as well. So I don't know how much you can take from the Cowboys here. The Titans, I do think they looked a bit improved in this one. Definitely a lot to work on still, but I do think that from outside of their first few games, this is a game that they can work on. So I'll take away some positives and work on them. So yeah, look, better game for the Titans, good game for the Cowboys. Yeah, just congratulations, good win for the Cowboys, sitting number 2. Right, next up, another game. I did not expect to see this scoreline. I did expect the Raiders would win this one, but a 41-8 scoreline is crazy. If you'd told me that at the start of the week, I would have laughed at you. I was thinking maybe like an 18-16 scoreline, but 41-8, incredible stuff there from Ricky's Raiders. Really good bounce back after that disappointing game against the Sharks. All right, here we go. Round number 6. Let's hope we get an improved score this week. I'm really hoping. Well, 5's not terrible, especially in the. A lot of people sort of would have struggled this week. So I will take 5, but I'd like at minimum 6. 6 tips, I think, is a good place to be at for round 6, especially when I'm not tipping. Well, when I'm not tipping against my Rabbitohs ever. Which is a down. I know, but I just can't do it. All right, here we go. Round 6. We've got the Knights against the Roosters over the last 7 games. The Knights have only won 1 of their last 7 against the Roosters. Roosters' winning margin against the Knights is actually 26 points. Knights' winning margin against the Roosters is 14. So, yeah, not great there for the Knights against the Roosters, But what I will say is I think the Roosters, I think they will have a few players out this week, which is going to hurt them. Obviously, Dom Young is going to miss some footy. I'm not too sure about James Tedesco, as I am recording this once again on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening due to work commitments and stuff like that. I don't think I'm going to be able to record this week. So, yeah, this is a tough one because the Knights go into this heaps of confidence with a big win over the Dragons. Roosters go into this probably a bit pissed off that they would have lost the way they did against the Dogs. I'm going to back the Knights in this one. I think they win. Look, it's going to be a 1-12 margin. I'm going to say by 8 points. The Knights, I do think, should win this one, but again, you just can't be sure. All right, next up, we've got the Storm against the Bulldogs. Over the last 5 games, Storm have won 4 of the last 5 by a margin of 33 points. The Dogs beat Storm by 14 in round 2 of last year. So, look, Storm, they struggled to start the season last year. They're playing a lot better this year. Currently sitting in 3rd with wins over the Broncos, the Warriors, the Panthers, and the Broncos again. So, 2 wins over the Bronx to start the year. And then, they've beaten very, very good teams this season. The Dogs, they beat the Roosters, they beat the Titans. Outside of that, they haven't really been great. I think the Dogs win. I think the Storm win this, especially at Amy Park. I doubt they lose this game. So, yeah, I think Storm, I would probably say 13 plus at Amy, but we'll talk margins at the end. Broncos and Dolphins, this is an interesting one. Now, the Broncos did win both their games against the Dolphins last year, 24-16 and then 18-12. So, it's probably expected that the Broncos go into this game as favourites. However, no Reynolds unless, scans come back positive. I don't know when Reece Walsh is back. I don't know when Payne Haas is back either. And the Dolphins could be without Herbie and Flegler. So this is a very interesting one. And I definitely could change my tip here because the Dolphins have beaten the Tigers last week at Suncorp. They beat the Titans the week before. They've beaten the Dragons, and in round 27 last year they beat the Warriors. So, and they have had a bye as well. Their loss was to the Cowboys in round 1. It was a pretty bad loss too. Look, Dolphins have started the year off well. They really have. They're sitting first. They're looking good. But I think at Suncorp, the Bronx are going to be too strong. I mean, the Broncos will be too strong at Suncorp, so I am going to tip the Broncos in that one. Again, depending on who, if Flegler and Farnworth are playing, I could definitely sway my tip to the Dolphins, but I do think the Broncos, for now, they get the win there. All right, next up, we've got the Warriors against the Sea Eagles. I think this could be shaping up as game of the round. Both sides have won 3, lost 2. Warriors sitting in 6th, Sea Eagles sitting in 7th. Games against each other in the last 7. Warriors have won 4, Manly have won 3, so it is pretty close between them. Manly's winning margin against the Warriors is 13 points over the last 5 years. Warriors' winning margin over the last 5 years is 8. This season, Warriors have had wins over my Rabbitohs, the Knights, and the Raiders, whereas the Manly, my apologies, have beaten Penrith, the Roosters, and the Rabbitohs. So, look, I think this should be a very close game. I do think it'll be a very close game. I don't think there'll be too much in it at all. However, being played over in Auckland, I do think the Warriors too strong here. I'm going to say a 1-12 margin. All right, next up, we've got the Eels against the Cowboys. This one is being played at CommBank Stadium. Both sides have won 3 of their last 6 games. Eels have won by 21 points, their average winning margin. Cowboys 16. This season, the Cowboys have knocked off the Titans, the Dragons, the Knights, and the Dolphins. So, they haven't beaten anybody that's realistically a threat, in my opinion. So, the wins have been okay. They haven't impressed me all that much. The Eels, however, they've only knocked off the Bulldogs and the Sea Eagles. So, yeah, I don't know. They're coming off a pretty poor game against the Raiders as well. So, it's tough because, again, the Cowboys they've been good. They can only play what's in front of them, and they have been pretty good against quality opponents. But in saying that, the only real quality opponent from last season is the Knights, and they only beat them by 1 point. The Dolphins, I guess you could say, have been good this year, but it's tough. At CommBank, it could be a difficult game. I am going to sway towards the Cowboys. I'm going to say, obviously, we'll talk margins at the end, as I said before, but yeah, I think it'll be a tough one here. All right, next up, we've got the Rabbitohs against Cronulla. This one is actually, realistically, it's pretty hard to tip. And obviously, the Sharks have had a better start to the season than the Rabbitohs. There's no shock at all about that. The Rabbitohs have won 3 of their last 6 against the Sharks. Sharks, obviously, have won 3 of the last 6 as well. Average winning margin for the Rabbitohs is 8 points over the last 5 years. And for the Sharks, it's 9. So only a 1 point difference. So I could see this game being extremely close. What do we got? So obviously the Rabbitohs, their only win this year is against the Bulldogs. The Sharks, they've beaten the Raiders, the Bulldogs, the Warriors, and the Raiders. The Raiders late last year, they lost to the Tigers. A pretty bad loss too, but then they bounced back against the Raiders there. Look, I'm obviously backing my boys in here. I'm always tipping the Rabbitohs. I don't care who they're up against. Couldn't care if they're up against Storm or Penrith or whoever. I don't care. I'm always gonna back my boys in. But I ain't confident there. I'm definitely not confident about this one. I do think the Sharks could potentially put a cricket score on us. We're just playing that badly. Latrell Mitchell will be out with a 3-week suspension, which probably will bring in Jai Gray even better because he is the next man up, in my opinion. And I genuinely believe Jai can play into that jersey, that he can make that jersey his if he has a good performance. And if the Rabbitohs do lose, Ben Hornby is likely to be the coach for the remainder of the season. So, look, I think this will be a very close game. I don't expect the Sharks to blow us out unless we do generally turn up and play like we have been, which is possible. But I am confident Rabbitohs can bounce back. I'm hopeful they can bounce back. I will be gutted if they can't. So Rabbitohs for me get the win there. All right, we're on to the Sunday ticket. We've got the Wests Tigers against the Dragons. The Tigers have won 5 of their last 8 games against St. George with a winning margin of 13, which means the Dragons have only won 3 of their last 8 against the Tigers with a winning margin of 4 points. I will turn that off on silent. Look, last 5 games for each side. So Tigers obviously losing this week to the Dolphins. They beat Para the week before. They absolutely tailed up the Sharks a week before that. And they lost pretty convincingly to the Raiders in round 2, obviously having the bye in round 1. For the Dragons, big loss to the Knights. They beat Manly. They got flogged by the Cowboys. They got flogged by the Dolphins, and they beat the Titans in round 1. So I think we've seen more positives out of the Tigers than we have the Dragons. Tigers comically sitting in 9th, Dragons sitting in 15th. There has been some positives out of the Dragons. Like, don't get me wrong, there has. The win against Manly was incredible. I thought they really turned up for that one. Wasn't convinced by the win against the Titans, and then they followed it up with 2 pretty bad losses. Look, I think the Tigers are in a better spot than the Dragons, so I am going to back the Tigers in this one. But I don't think this will be a 13-plus margin. I really don't. We'll talk margins again at the end. But, Tigers should get a good win there, in my opinion. All right, next up, we've got the Raiders against the Titans, the last game of the Sunday ticket. And boy, oh boy, it's already looking bleak for the Titans. In the last 5 years, so from their last 8 games, the Raiders have won 7. The Titans obviously won 1. They did win that one by 38 points, though. So, look, the Raiders have had the wood over the Titans, regardless if it's at Canberra or the Gold Coast. So, then the Raiders were actually at home. This was in 2021 when the Titans tailed them up. So, how these sides started the year. Titans, not great. Losing all of their games this season. They lost in round 1 to the Dragons, bye in round 2. They lost to the Bulldogs 32-0. Then they lost to the Dolphins by 16 and the Cowboys by 13. So, really poor start to the year for the Titans. The Raiders have sort of been mixed. They beat Para this week. They lost to the Sharks last week, lost in a close game to the Warriors the week before, and then they had 2 really good wins over the Tigers and the Knights. So they've started the season pretty well. Look, I think this will be an easy 13-plus win there to the Raiders. I can't see the Titans competing at all in that one. So, yeah, I think it'll be a pretty convincing win there. All right, guys, let's talk margins and then my anytime try scorers. So for the Knights-Roosters game, I've obviously got the Knights 1-12 in this one, and I do think we will see Kalen Ponga cross in that game. Next up, Storm and the Bulldogs. Storm 13+. I think they do win this one 13+. I am backing Willie Warbrick to score any time in that one. Broncos and Dolphins. At this stage, I have the Broncos 1-12. If Herbie and Tom play, I do think the Dolphins can win that game. And also depending on who the Broncos have in and out. So I am backing the Broncos 1-12. My anytime try scorer is Selwyn Cobbo. Warriors and Sea Eagles. I'm backing the Warriors in 1-12 in this one. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I do think it could be on a higher end of a 1-12. And for me, for the Warriors, I'm going to say Sean Johnson scores any time in that one. Cowboys, I do think this one will be 1-12, especially because it's a CommBank. I don't think the Cowboys will blow them out. So I am backing the Cowboys 1-12 with Valentine Holmes scoring any time. Rabbitohs, Sharks, I've got to back my boys in 1-12 here. I think they'll get the job done. I freaking hope they do. I'll be freaking emotional if they don't. So Rabbitohs 1-12, and I think we see Jai Gray. Put an asterisk near his name if he is playing, scoring on debut. All right, next up, Tigers are 1-12 over the Dragons. This could go 13 plus at Campbelltown though. I am going to tip a higher end 1-12 win for the Tigers, but I reckon it could go 13 plus. So yeah, Tigers winning that one, and I am going to go. We're going to go Api Coruscant anytime try score. A little bit rogue there from me. And then to round out the weekend, Raiders against the Titans. Raiders 13 plus. And I'm going to go Hudson Young anytime try scorer. All right, guys, let me know your tips down below in the comments. Please leave that like and subscribe, guys, if you are new to the channel. It'll mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for all your support. And as always, my friends, I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.